Welcome back. The financial world and ordinary South Africans are waiting expectantly for the medium-term budget policy statement. The finance minister may announce plans tomorrow for government to take on some of Eskom's debt. Eskom has to pay interest on roughly 400 billion rand when the money is desperately needed to fix the power crisis. Civil society groups at the same time have lobbied for the introduction of a universal basic income grant. So lots to look forward to tomorrow. The Alternative Information and Development Centre has issued a guide for activists. To discuss, we're joined by Dick Forslund, who is an economist at the Alternative Information and Development Centre. Mr. Forslund, thank you for being with us. The question has been for a while, how do you fund a basic income grant that's permanent? We've seen that 350 rand extended and extended, but it's not permanent. Many calls for a higher grant. Treasury has been playing around with tax brackets, suggesting it's going to be hard. And I'm interested that you say that the tax pressure on earners has actually gone down over the last 2 decades. So does that mean you're saying let's tax the rich to feed the poor?
Yeah, that's one way to do it, one of the measures to take. And I mean, it's not only that we are saying it, it's a fact. You can read it in the tax statistics publication of the SARS and the Treasury. So, I mean, after the so-called GEAR policy document in 1996, the government basically implemented a tax cut revolution. And this took place between 2000 and 2008. And if you would kind of tax the lifestyles as they were taxed at this time, then the budget would have about 160 billion rand more per year. So that was the effect of this. And also at that time, the government relied on private sector growth, and that's something kind of that they thought that you can extend the public sector services and implement the social grant system and the kind of electricity for all and all these projects that were needed. Yeah. As also is the repair of the infrastructure. They thought they could do that by relying on private sector growth, or that the private sector would would be a trickle-down effect. If the rich would have more income, then eventually would trickle down to the poor. Yeah. And this we can see now. It's proven it didn't happen. So the tax rates are much lower. The same lifestyles are much lower tax today.
So this is so fascinating, because the refrain we often hear is that there's such a small group of taxpayers in South Africa. I think 5% are often cited. And, you know, should they be pressurized and cover everything for everybody? So you don't buy that sympathy card that maybe the narrow tax base already has too much on its plate.
Yeah, but the narrow, it's true that in a way there is a narrow tax base. So if you think about people who have taxable income from 750,000 per year and up, they stand for sort of 60 to 70% of the personal income tax income. But I mean, that is just a reflection of income inequality in South Africa. It's just a reflection of that. And this is what you get then when you have a progressive tax system. But I mean, when you have, it's almost becoming a standard now, and you call it a middle class when people have incomes of 1.5, 2 million and more in salaries and in benefits. I don't call that a middle class, especially not in a country like South Africa. These people, those who belong to this group, which amounts to some 1% of the population, of course, they can go back to the same tax system that was in place already 16, 17 years ago. And I mean, that is one of the measures that has been taken. And the the economic part, so to speak, of the negotiated settlement, which promised that the lifestyles could continue for the privileged minority as it had been under apartheid. Yeah. That negotiated settlement, the economic side of it, it has to be set aside. But
right.
I mean, another thing, there's
Mr.
other
Forslund,
things that
we're
Godongwana should
running out
do
of
also.
time, so I do want to ask you, I mean, thank you. So you've outlined an argument for taxes to go up and not down. You've also outlined an argument for wages for public sector workers to go up. And of course, the call now again is for a double-digit increase, and government has been saying it simply can't afford this. We also hear about the bloated government sector, but you've also debunked that, saying that many jobs have actually fallen over time. Just tell me your stance quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the Department of Public Administration, they reported in March this year that there are 165,000 vacancies in public sector officially, whereof 73,000 in the basic education and 39,000 in public health. And the number of public sector employees in national and provincial employment, it is back to the numbers it was in 2006, 2007. And you also have another report from another WITS institute about the same thing. It is indisputable. This is how it is. And at the same time, the population growth has far exceeded the growth of those who are employed in the public sector up to 2019. Then this extreme austerity started, and now we are back to the numbers of 2006 and 2007. That has to be fixed. And I think that also the government has to meet the public sector unions halfway. There was already sort of a demand in the middle, which I thought they would settle on at the rate of inflation, basically. And that is what would happen now. But then the government has to abandon this extreme austerity. And that is what we will not expect. But,
the pressure for higher wages will be even bigger now, I suspect, because government is expected to announce better revenue from things like mining and the like. Thank you, Mr. Forslund. I wish we could carry on discussing the expectations. He was an economist from the Alternative Information and Development Centre.